Wrong door. Public assistance is down the block. The insult detonates in the center of the marble lobby, loud enough to stop conversations mid-sentence. Marcia Thompson doesn't respond. Not yet. Her fingers rest lightly on the strap of her handbag, posture still composed, a study in elegant restraint. The bank is a cathedral of generational wealth, gold-trimmed ceilings, Italian stone, and a hush reserved for those who inherit power. And yet, they look at her like she's tracking in dirt. The teller, polished and venomous, offers a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. We only assist premium clientele here. Marcia steps forward, unbothered. I'd like to speak with your branch manager, but security shifts, blocking her path with practiced indifference. The teller shrugs. They always think they're the exception. A chill sweeps the lobby. Every head turns toward the woman they assumed didn't belong, and the woman who owns the building doesn't move. You won't believe who they just disrespected. Marcia steps into the cathedral-like banking floor, her modest handbag tucked securely under her arm. The space radiates old money and institutional power, with its soaring ceilings that disappear into shadows. Mahogany panels polished to mirror brightness, and brass fixtures that gleam like captured sunlight. Marble columns rise like ancient sentinels, each one imported from Italian quarries at costs that could fund small businesses. She moves with the quiet confidence of someone who belongs everywhere she goes, yet she's dressed deliberately, unremarkably today. No designer labels screaming wealth, no flashy jewelry announcing status. Nothing that immediately telegraphs her position in the financial hierarchy. The customer service desk sits like an altar at the center of the marble floor, its granite surface reflecting the overhead lights. Marcia approaches with measured steps, noting how conversations seem to pause as she passes, how eyes follow her movement with the subtle tracking of predators assessing potential prey. A teller named Jennifer Morrison, her nameplate gleaming against her crisp white blouse, looks up with a smile that freezes the moment she sees Marcia. Jennifer's blonde hair is pulled back in a perfect chignon, her makeup applied with the precision of someone who understands that appearance equals authority in this environment. How can I help you today? Jennifer's voice carries the weight of a question mark, each word carefully measured and weighed. Her colleague, a younger woman with perfectly styled blonde hair and nails that cost more than some people's grocery bills, leans closer to whisper something that makes Jennifer's carefully shaped eyebrows rise slightly. I'd like to speak with the branch manager about account services, Marcia says, her tone professional and calm, the words clear and precise. Jennifer's fingers hover over her keyboard like a pianist preparing to play, but she doesn't begin typing. Her blue eyes narrow slightly as she processes the request. What type of account are you looking to open? We have very specific requirements for certain types of banking relationships. The pause before certain types hangs in the air like smoke from a dying fire, heavy with implication. Behind Marcia, other customers move freely through the space like fish in familiar water. A white man in an expensive charcoal suit approaches another teller and is immediately greeted with warm efficiency. Genuine smiles, immediate attention, respectful body language. No questions about account types or requirements, just immediate service delivered with the kind of respect that money and skin color combined can command. I'd prefer to discuss the details with your manager, Marcia responds, maintaining her patient demeanor despite the obvious disparity in treatment that feels like needles pricking her skin. Jennifer exchanges another look with her colleague, a silent communication that speaks volumes about their shared assumptions. She reaches for Marcia's driver's license with the deliberate slowness of someone making a point. She studies it for an unusually long time, comparing the photo to Marcia's face multiple times, turning it over to examine the back, holding it up to the light as if checking for forgery. And what's your current employment situation? The question drops like a stone into still water. creating ripples of implication. The question hangs heavy with suggestion, violation of basic customer service protocol, wrapped in corporate politeness. Marshall notes the breach of standard procedure. Other customers aren't subjected to employment interrogation, but answers simply, "I work in finance." Finance, Jennifer repeats, as if the word tastes strange in her mouth, like she's trying to identify an exotic spice. She makes a show of typing notes into her computer, her fingers clicking against the keys with theatrical emphasis. "And your income verification documentation? Tax returns? Pay stubs? We need to ensure you meet our minimum requirements before we invest the manager's time." A white woman behind Marcia is called forward by another teller without being asked for identification, employment verification, or income documentation. She's immediately escorted to a premium customer service area with plush leather chairs and complimentary beverages served in real china, not paper cups. "Is this standard procedure for all customers requesting to speak with the manager?" Marcia asks, her voice still controlled but with an edge that suggests she knows exactly what game is being played. Jennifer's smile becomes more strained, the muscles in her face working overtime to maintain the facade of professional courtesy. "We just want to make sure you're directed to the right person for your specific needs. You might be more comfortable at one of our other branch locations that specialize in community banking. There's one about 15 minutes away that really caters to your demographic." The suggestion lands like a slap across the face. Community banking. Corporate code for where people like her belong. Marcia feels the familiar burn of institutionalized racism, the kind that comes wrapped in corporate politeness and plausible deniability, tied with ribbons of procedure and policy. The security guard who questioned her at the door now positions himself within clear view, his hand resting casually near his radio like a gunslinger ready to draw. Other customers steal glances, some with curiosity, others with the satisfied expression of people watching someone get put firmly in their place. Marcia observes it all with the practiced eye of someone who has navigated these treacherous waters for decades. She notes policy violations, discriminatory language patterns, and the way the bank's own diversity posters, featuring smiling faces of every ethnicity, mock the reality of its treatment toward people who look like her. "I'll wait for the manager," she says simply, her dignity intact, despite the three-ring circus of discrimination playing out around her like a carnival of cruelty. Branch manager David Sterling emerges from his corner office like a territorial animal defending his domain, his expensive Italian leather shoes clicking against the marble with the authority of someone who has never questioned his right to occupy space. His tailored suit probably costs more than most people make in a month, and his confident stride announces his authority to everyone within sight. His salt and pepper hair is perfectly styled, his skin bearing the slight tan of someone who takes frequent golf vacations to exclusive resorts. If Thompson is it, he doesn't extend a handshake or offer the basic courtesy he would show other customers. No smile, no welcoming gesture, no invitation to make herself comfortable. His steel gray eyes assess her like a loan officer evaluating a risky investment. "I understand you're looking for banking services. Let's step into my office and see what we can do for you." The office he leads her to is small and windowless, typically reserved for loan rejections and account closures, the place where dreams come to die. Sterling positions himself behind his mahogany desk, like a judge preparing to deliver a verdict, while Marcia sits in the uncomfortable chair reserved for supplicants and debtors. The room smells of leather and disappointment, with motivational posters about excellence and achievement that ring hollow in this space of rejection. "What exactly brings you to our bank today?" His tone suggests this is an interrogation rather than a customer consultation, each word measured and weighted with skepticism. "I'd like to discuss premium account services and investment opportunities," Marcia responds, noting how his expression shifts at the mention of premium services, eyebrows raising, lips pursing slightly, the look of someone who has just heard something absurd. Sterling leans back in his leather chair, the mechanism creaking under his weight, his smile condescending enough to curdle milk. Thompson, I appreciate your interest, but our premium services require substantial minimum balances and income verification. Are you familiar with our requirements? The pause before interest carries the weight of his assumptions about her financial capacity. I'd like to hear about them, Marcia says evenly, her voice betraying nothing of the storm building inside her chest. Well, Sterling begins, settling into his role as gatekeeper with obvious relish. For our basic premium checking, we require a minimum daily balance of $50,000. Not $50,000 over time, you understand, but $50,000 every single day, rain or shine. He watches her face carefully for signs of shock or defeat. Our investment services start at $250,000, minimum, with annual income requirements of at least $500,000. Plus, we require proof of liquid assets, beyond the investment amount. He delivers these numbers like weapons, each figure designed to overwhelm and discourage. Marcia simply nods, her expression as neutral as Switzerland, refusing to give him the satisfaction of seeing her flinch. And of course, Sterling continues, warming to his theme like a predator sensing weakness, we need extensive documentation proving financial capacity, employment verification going back 5 years, complete tax returns, detailed credit reports, references from existing high-net-worth clients, proof of property ownership, investment portfolio statements. We've had significant issues recently with people making financial claims they simply can't substantiate. The implied accusation of fraud hangs between them like smoke from a dirty fire. Marcia feels the weight of every assumption, every stereotype being applied to her presence in this space. The automatic suspicion that a black woman couldn't possibly have legitimate business requiring premium services. These specific requirements aren't posted in your public policy documentation, she observes quietly, her lawyer's mind cataloging each violation of standard banking practice. Sterling's face hardens, the mask of corporate politeness slipping to reveal raw prejudice underneath. We reserve the right to apply additional verification measures when circumstances warrant increased scrutiny. The words circumstances warrant carry the full weight of his racial assumptions, hanging in the air like a confession. I see. Marcia checks her phone, discreetly noting the time. The board meeting starts in 12 minutes. She could end this charade with a single phone call, could reveal her identity, and watch this man's world crumble in real time. But something important is happening here, something that extends far beyond her personal inconvenience. She's experiencing firsthand the systematic discrimination that affects countless customers who don't have her resources or authority to fight back. Mr. Sterling, could you provide me with a written copy of these additional requirements? She asks, her voice maintaining its professional calm. That won't be necessary, he responds curtly, standing with the abrupt movement of someone ending an unwanted conversation. I think we both understand that this isn't the right fit. Perhaps you'd be better served at one of our community banking locations, where the requirements are more flexible. Marcia remained seated, her posture straight and dignified. Actually, I'd like to understand your policies more completely. As a potential customer, I have the right to review all requirements before making an informed decision about where to invest my money. Sterling's jaw tightens visibly, a muscle jumping beneath his carefully shaved cheek. This isn't going according to his well-practiced script. Difficult customers usually leave by now, either discouraged by the excessive requirements or too humiliated to continue fighting a battle they can't win. Marcia's calm persistence seems to unnerve him, like encountering unexpected resistance where he expected easy victory. He reaches for his phone and calls for additional verification. 2 more employees appear within minutes. A supervisor and another manager, making the small office feel crowded and oppressive. Their presence transforms a simple customer consultation into an interrogation, and other customers begin gathering outside, drawn by the unusual commotion, like spectators at an accident. I'm going to need you to understand something, Sterling says, his voice rising enough for others to hear through the open door. This bank serves a very specific clientele with very specific standards. We can't just let anyone walk in off the street claiming they belong here with our premium customers. The mask has completely slipped now. The polite corporate language is giving way to raw prejudice, and Marcia documents every word, every expression, every moment of this institutional racism playing out in real time. The small office has become a fishbowl, with Sterling deliberately leaving the door wide open to turn Marcia's consultation into public theater. A line of customers pretends not to stare while obviously listening to every word. Their faces showing varying degrees of discomfort, curiosity, and satisfaction. People like you need to understand that this isn't that kind of establishment, Sterling says, his voice carrying clearly into the main banking floor like an announcement. We serve a very specific clientele with very specific standards. This is a serious financial institution, not some community credit union where standards are negotiable. The phrase, "people like you," lands like a physical blow, each word designed to cut and humiliate. Marcia feels the familiar sting of racial humiliation, the kind that strips dignity in front of witnesses who will remember this moment and tell others about the black woman who thought she belonged where she clearly didn't. Maybe you'd be more comfortable with our community outreach program, Sterling continues, enjoying his growing audience like a performer feeding off applause. We have partnerships with organizations that help people in your situation access appropriate financial services. There are programs specifically designed for folks who might not meet our traditional standards. A white customer at the main counter openly snickers, not bothering to hide his amusement at the spectacle. The security guard positions himself prominently in the doorway, his presence a clear threat wrapped in corporate security protocol. Marcia feels the weight of every eye in the building, all of them watching her humiliation with varying degrees of satisfaction, discomfort, or morbid curiosity. "Mr. Sterling," Marcia responds, her voice steady despite the circumstances, each word carefully controlled. "I'm simply requesting standard banking services that should be available to all qualified customers." Her calm only seems to infuriate Sterling more, like gasoline thrown on a fire. He wanted her to get angry, to lose her composure, to prove his assumptions about her character and temperament. Her dignity in the face of his aggression makes him look small and petty, which only fuels his determination to break her composed facade. "Ma'am, let me be very clear," he says, raising his voice to ensure everyone in the banking hall hears every word. "This bank serves people who actually contribute meaningfully to the community, not those looking for handouts or trying to access services beyond their demonstrated means. We have standards here. Standards that exist for very good reasons. The accusation of seeking handouts is the final insult, the last straw in a haystack of discrimination. Marcia feels the burn of injustice spreading through her chest like wildfire, but she also recognizes the strategic importance of this moment. She discreetly begins recording audio on her phone, the device capturing every discriminatory word. She texts her assistant with practiced efficiency, emergency meeting with legal and HR in 10 minutes, document everything, prepare termination protocol. An elderly black gentleman in line shakes his head in recognition, his weathered face reflecting the pain of someone who has endured similar treatment countless times over decades. His eyes meet Marcia's, for a moment offering silent solidarity. A young Latina customer looks visibly uncomfortable, her own experiences with discrimination making her squirm with recognition. A white woman near the back begins filming with her phone, her journalist instincts sensing something deeply wrong with what she's witnessing. "I'd like the names and titles of everyone involved in today's service interaction," Marcia says calmly, her voice betraying none of the storm building inside her. "For my customer service feedback form." Sterling's smile is triumphant, like a hunter who has successfully cornered his prey. "Of course, David Sterling, branch manager Jennifer Morrison, Customer Service Representative Mike Sullivan, Security Specialist. I'm sure my supervisor would be very interested in hearing about your experience today. We take customer feedback very seriously, especially when it helps us identify potential problem areas. He doesn't realize he's just provided evidence for his own professional execution, signing his name to his own termination papers. Mr. Sterling, I understand your position completely, Marcia says, standing and gathering her things with quiet dignity that shines like a beacon in the toxic atmosphere. You've made the bank's values crystal clear today. As she moves toward the door, Sterling can't resist one final shot. The killing blow that he believes will cement his victory. Some people just don't know their place, he says to his colleagues, loud enough for Marcia to hear his voice dripping with satisfaction. But that's what we're here for, to maintain standards. The security camera mounted in the corner captures everything with digital precision. Every word, every expression, every moment of institutional racism playing out in high definition with crystal clear audio. What David Sterling doesn't know is that his entire career is about to end, and it will take exactly 7 minutes. Marcia steps onto the sidewalk outside First National Bank, the morning air carrying the weight of institutional racism that has just settled around her like a familiar, unwelcome coat. She's worn too many times before. She's not just angry, she's strategically furious, her mind already working through the systematic response that will transform this moment of discrimination into institutional change. Her phone buzzes insistently with urgent messages, but she takes a moment to center herself, knowing that the next few minutes will not just end careers, but reshape the culture of an entire institution. She places 3 critical calls in rapid succession, each one delivered with the precision of a military commander coordinating a complex operation. First legal counsel, Sarah Kim. We have a code red discrimination incident at the downtown branch. I need everything documented within the hour. Security footage from multiple angles, complete employment records for all involved, staff comprehensive customer complaint histories, detailed policy violation reports. Everything, Sarah. This goes federal if we don't handle it perfectly. Next, HR Director James Washington, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. James, initiate a full forensic review of the downtown branch immediately. I want every customer complaint, every discrimination report, every policy violation from the past 2 years on my desk within 90 minutes. Cross-resolution? With employee performance reviews and look for patterns. Check complaint resolution procedures. I suspect we'll find systematic bias in how issues were handled. Finally, Board Chair Elizabeth Morrison, the urgency unmistakable. Elizabeth, emergency session needed within the hour. We have a serious liability situation that requires immediate board intervention. The kind that makes front-page news, triggers federal investigations, and costs institutions their reputation. Clear your calendar. Inside the bank, Sterling returns to the main floor like a conquering hero returning from successful battle. He gathers his staff around the customer service desk, his chest puffed with pride at his successful removal of an undesirable customer. Jennifer giggles nervously, still high on the adrenaline of participating in what feels like justified discrimination. Her face flushed with the excitement of someone who believes she's just helped maintain important social boundaries. You should have seen her face when I told her about our community outreach program. Sterling brags to Mike the security guard, his voice loud enough for other customers to hear. Some people need to learn their place the hard way. She actually thought she could waltz in here and demand premium services. The audacity is unbelievable. Mike nods approvingly, his chest swelling with shared accomplishment. I spotted trouble the moment she walked through that door. You can always tell when someone doesn't belong in an establishment like this. It's all about reading people, understanding who belongs where. The arrogance compounds exponentially as Sterling calls his supervisor at regional headquarters, Patricia Wells. Patricia, we had a potential situation today, but I handled it perfectly. Some woman trying to make demands above her station, claiming she deserved premium services without any documentation. You know how it is these days. Everyone thinks they're entitled to services they can't afford and haven't earned. He's painting himself as a hero, protecting the bank's standards, not realizing he's confessing to federal civil rights violations that could land him in court and the bank under federal oversight. The culture of discrimination Sterling has fostered begins revealing itself as other employees share similar stories with the enthusiasm of soldiers recounting successful battles. Jennifer mentions the urban customers she's successfully discouraged from opening premium accounts, describing her techniques for making them feel unwelcome without technically violating policy. Mike talks about the suspicious characters he's convinced to bank elsewhere, his profiling methods sophisticated and systematic. What becomes clear is that this isn't isolated behavior, but institutional practice, flowing from the top down. A carefully cultivated culture where discrimination is not only tolerated, but actively encouraged and rewarded. The elderly black gentleman who witnessed Marcia's humiliation approaches Jennifer's window cautiously, his movements careful and deliberate. He's been a customer for 30 years, his account always in good standing, but suddenly every interaction feels hostile and threatening. His simple request to check his account balance is met with excessive verification requirements that never existed before. Demands for multiple forms of identification, questions about recent deposits, suspicious scrutiny of routine transactions. Other minority customers sense the shift in atmosphere, like animals sensing an approaching storm. Conversations stop abruptly when they approach counters. Their transactions receive extra scrutiny that white customers don't face. Staff members whisper among themselves when minorities enter, their body language shifting to defensive postures. The message is clear. Yesterday's treatment of Marcia wasn't an anomaly, but a declaration of how business will be conducted going forward. From her car outside, Marcia coordinates the response with military precision, her years of corporate leadership focused into laser-sharp action. She reviews Sterling's employment file on her tablet, multiple complaints over 5 years, 2 previous warnings for customer service issues that were clearly discriminatory in nature, and a disturbing pattern of behavior that was minimized by previous management, who shared his biases or lacked the courage to address them. She accesses security footage from her phone, the bank's comprehensive surveillance system, allowing her to watch the encounter from multiple camera angles. Every discriminatory comment, every policy violation, every moment of public humiliation is documented in high definition with crystal clear audio that would make federal prosecutors weep with joy. The evidence builds systematically like a legal brief prepared by the most competent attorneys in the country. Customer complaint records reveal a disturbing pattern spanning years. Minority customers routinely receive substandard service, face excessive verification requirements applied inconsistently, and are subtly discouraged from using premium services through a variety of bureaucratic barriers. White customers with similar or even inferior financial profiles sail through processes that minorities are told they don't qualify for. Regional Director Patricia Wells arrives for what Sterling assumes is a routine inspection, possibly even a commendation visit. She's actually responding to Marcia's earlier call, but Sterling interprets her presence as recognition of his excellent customer service performance. He guides her through the branch like a proud shop owner showing off his enhanced customer screening procedures and improved security protocols. Wells observes the branch culture with growing alarm, her trained eye recognizing systematic discrimination that could destroy careers and trigger federal intervention. She watches Sterling interact with customers and notes the stark difference in treatment based on race and perceived economic status. A young black professional is subjected to extensive interrogation about his employment, while a white customer with similar credentials is immediately offered premium services and invited to the VIP area. Marcia's emergency response team has assembled a comprehensive case file that would make federal prosecutors celebrate. Video evidence captured from multiple angles, complete audio recordings, sworn witness statements, documented policy violations, extensive customer complaint patterns, and evidence of institutional discrimination stretching back years. The board has been briefed and is assembling for emergency session. Legal has prepared comprehensive termination documents with ironclad justification. HR has identified all complicit employees and prepared disciplinary actions. The phone call comes at exactly 2:17 p.m. The timing is precise as a military operation. Marcia's assistant dials the branch directly. This is calling from the Chief Executive Officer's office. Ms. Thompson requests the immediate presence of Mr. Sterling and all involved staff in Conference Room A. This is not optional, this is not a request, and delays will be considered insubordination. Sterling's face lights up like Christmas morning. He assumes he's being summoned for commendation, perhaps even promotion to regional management. He straightens his tie with practiced precision and gathers Jennifer and Mike, telling them with obvious pride that they're about to be recognized for their outstanding customer service and dedication to maintaining the bank's high standards. They walk toward Conference Room A with the confidence of people who believe discrimination is not only acceptable but professionally rewarded. Sterling even jokes about how they cleaned house today, making the branch safe for real customers and people who actually belong here. None of them notice the subtle signs of their impending professional doom. Legal documents being prepared in offices they're walking past. Security personnel being quietly briefed on escort procedures. Payroll being notified of immediate terminations, requiring final paycheck calculations. Conference Room A represents the pinnacle of corporate power. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline, a hand-carved mahogany table that could seat 20 board members, and oil portraits of the bank's founders looking down with expressions that seem to judge the living. Sterling enters confidently, his chest swelled with anticipated recognition, already mentally rehearsing his acceptance speech. Regional Director Wells and Legal Counsel Kim are already seated, their expressions carefully neutral in a way that speaks volumes to anyone fluent in corporate body language. Sterling assumes they're there to witness his commendation, possibly even to discuss his promotion to higher positions. Jennifer and Mike follow nervously, sensing something in the atmosphere they can't quite identify. A tension that feels more like a courtroom than a celebration. Marcia enters through the executive entrance, a private door Sterling has never seen used in all his years at the bank. She's changed into a sharper business suit, her entire demeanor shifted from customer to executive authority. The transformation is so complete that for a moment Sterling doesn't recognize her as the woman he just humiliated. "Mr. Sterling," Wells says, standing with formal precision that cuts through the room's atmosphere like a blade. "I'd like you to meet Marcia Thompson, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of First National Bank." The words hit Sterling like physical blows, each syllable landing with the impact of a heavyweight boxer's punch. His face drains of color so rapidly that Kim later describes it as watching a time-lapse video of death itself. His legs visibly weaken, and he grips the back of a leather chair for support, his knuckles turning white with the strain. Jennifer gasps audibly, her hand flying to her mouth as the magnitude of their catastrophic mistake becomes crystal clear. Her perfectly applied makeup can't hide the horror spreading across her features. Mike, the security guard, realizes he asked the owner of the bank, the woman whose portrait hangs in the lobby, if she was in the right place. Marcia doesn't gloat or raise her voice. Her authority is absolute and terrifyingly calm, the kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself because it simply is. "Please, everyone sit down. We have several critical matters to discuss regarding today's customer service experience." She places her phone on the mahogany table with deliberate precision. The recorded audio is cued and ready to play. 47 minutes of documented discrimination. Sterling stares at the device like it's a weapon pointed directly at his chest. "Ms. Thompson," he begins, his voice cracking like an adolescent's, If I had known who you were, Mr. Sterling. Marcia interrupts gently, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. That's exactly the problem we're here to address. Your behavior toward customers shouldn't depend on whether you know who they are. It should be based on basic human dignity and consistent professional standards. She begins reviewing the evidence methodically, like a prosecutor presenting an airtight case to a jury that has already reached its verdict. Security footage plays on the room's large monitor, showing Sterling's discriminatory treatment from multiple angles. His own words echo back to him with damning clarity. People like you need to understand, this isn't that kind of establishment. The systematic deconstruction continues with customer complaint patterns revealing institutional bias stretching back years. Employment records show Sterling's previous warnings were ignored by management, who shared his prejudices or lacked the institutional courage to address systemic racism. The scope of discrimination extends far beyond today's incident. It's a pattern, a culture, a systematic violation of both law and basic human decency. Sterling attempts desperate damage control, his voice rising with panic. This is all a misunderstanding, Ms. Thompson. I was just following established bank protocol. We have to be careful about who we serve in this neighborhood. There are liability issues, fraud concerns. I was protecting the bank's interests. His excuses only deepen the hole he's digging for himself. Each word reveals the depth of his assumption that discrimination is not only acceptable, but institutionally supported and legally justified. Marcia addresses the broader implications with the measured tone of someone delivering a eulogy. This isn't about one interaction, Mr. Sterling. You've created and fostered a culture where discrimination is normalized, where staff members believe treating customers differently based on race is not only acceptable, but expected and rewarded. The elderly Black customer and young Latina customer who witnessed the morning's events have been invited to share their experiences. Their stories reveal years of subtle and overt discrimination that Sterling's management enabled and actively encouraged. The pattern is clear, documented, and legally indefensible. Legal counsel Kim outlines the consequences with clinical precision. Potential federal civil rights investigations, multiple customer lawsuits, regulatory penalties that could reach millions of dollars, and possible criminal charges for civil rights violations. Sterling's actions haven't just violated company policy. They've exposed the bank to catastrophic legal liability that could threaten its very existence. Marcia shares her personal experience. I've been CEO of this bank for 8 years. I've worked in finance for 20. Today I was treated like I didn't belong in my own building because of the color of my skin. That ends today, and it ends permanently. The terminations are swift and final, delivered with the efficiency of a military court-martial. Sterling, Jennifer, and Mike are dismissed immediately. Their access cards deactivated before they leave the room. Security escorts called, and termination paperwork signed with no possibility of appeal. There's no severance package, no second chance, no gradual discipline. Their discriminatory behavior has created liability the bank simply cannot tolerate. Other employees throughout the building realize their own behavior is under intense scrutiny. The culture of casual racism Sterling fostered is being systematically dismantled, and fear replaces arrogance as accountability becomes real and immediate. The conference room empties as terminated employees are escorted from the building under security guard, their personal belongings packed in cardboard boxes like refugees fleeing a war zone. Sterling clears out his office while other employees watch through glass walls. The public nature of his termination ensuring the story will spread throughout the financial industry within hours, like wildfire. His LinkedIn profile floods with questions from professional contacts and former colleagues, his network of relationships collapsing in real time. Former allies distance themselves as news of his discriminatory behavior spreads through banking networks with the speed of social media. The recording of his racist comments begins circulating across platforms, making him unemployable in finance and toxic to any institution that values its reputation. Jennifer faces immediate termination and the stark reality of unemployment in an industry that now knows her name for all the wrong reasons. Her participation in discrimination is permanently noted in her employment record, making banking positions virtually impossible to obtain. She is forced to confront how her complicity in racism has destroyed her career trajectory at age 34, with a mortgage and student loans that won't pause for her moral reckoning. Mike's assumption about Marcia's belonging becomes a viral video clip shared across social media platforms, his moment of discrimination immortalized in digital form. His termination from the bank leads to immediate dismissal from the security company, his professional judgment and character questioned across the industry. Security positions become difficult to obtain when background checks reveal documented discrimination. Legal ramifications extend far beyond employment consequences into federal territory. While criminal charges aren't immediately filed, civil rights violations trigger Department of Justice oversight that could last years. The bank faces investigation by multiple regulatory agencies, each one capable of imposing penalties that could reach tens of millions of dollars. Customer lawsuits begin mounting as other victims of discrimination emerge from years of silence encouraged by Marcia's decisive action. Banking industry publications cover the story as a cautionary tale about institutional racism and corporate accountability, with Marcia's handling becoming a case study taught in business schools. Other financial institutions begin frantically reviewing their own practices, fearing similar exposure and the catastrophic consequences that follow. Sterling's personal consequences extend far beyond professional destruction, into every aspect of his life. His mortgage application at another bank is denied due to employment instability and negative references that follow him like shadows. His country club membership is quietly revoked, the board citing conduct incompatible with club values. Social circles that once welcomed him become uncomfortable with his presence. Invitations drying up like water in drought. The domino effect reaches Regional Director Wells, who faces intense scrutiny for failing to address previous complaints about Sterling's discriminatory behavior. Her oversight of the systematic pattern raises serious questions about her own competence and potential bias. She's placed on administrative leave pending a comprehensive investigation that could end her 30-year career. Community response is overwhelmingly positive, with local civil rights organizations praising Marcia's swift action and systematic approach to addressing institutional discrimination. The bank's decisive response helps repair community relationships damaged by years of discriminatory practices that drove away minority customers and businesses. Media coverage positions the story as an example of corporate accountability done right, with Marcia's measured response and systematic approach praised by business leaders and civil rights advocates alike. The story becomes a template for how leadership should address institutional discrimination when it's discovered. Professional redemption comes for employees who witnessed discrimination but felt powerless to report it under Sterling's regime. Anonymous tip lines are established, comprehensive bias training is implemented, and a culture of accountability begins, replacing the previous culture of silence and complicity that allowed discrimination to flourish unchecked. Sterling's termination follows him to every job interview over the following months, like a ghost that won't rest. Background checks immediately reveal his discriminatory behavior, and his professional network shrinks as contacts distance themselves from association with documented racism that could taint their own reputations. 3 weeks later, Marcia stands in the renovated bank lobby, watching morning light stream through windows that somehow seem cleaner and brighter than before. New diversity and inclusion materials reflect genuine commitment rather than empty corporate gestures designed to deflect criticism. Through conference room windows, she can see training sessions in progress, staff members learning about unconscious bias, and inclusive customer service practices that treat dignity as a fundamental right rather than a privilege to be earned. The atmosphere has fundamentally shifted from exclusionary to welcoming, the change tangible in how employees greet customers, in the diversity of faces behind service counters, and in the elimination of subtle barriers that once made minorities feel unwelcome. The marble floors reflect the same light, but the space feels transformed. Marcia addresses her staff during the weekly team meeting, her voice carrying the weight of hard-earned wisdom. What happened here wasn't about one person's prejudice. It was about all of us allowing a culture of discrimination to exist unchallenged. Real change happens when everyone takes responsibility for creating an inclusive environment. The elderly black customer returns, this time greeted with genuine respect and efficient service that treats him like the valued customer he's always been. His transaction is processed smoothly without excessive verification or suspicious questioning. The young Latina customer brings her family to open accounts. Word having spread through minority communities that First National Bank has genuinely changed its culture. New policies ensure diverse hiring practices, regular bias training, and clear consequences for discrimination. Customer feedback systems allow anonymous reporting of discriminatory treatment, with investigations handled by independent third parties. Management bonuses are tied to diversity and inclusion metrics, making equality profitable as well as morally imperative. Marcia reflects on her personal growth. I could have revealed my identity immediately and avoided that humiliation. But experiencing discrimination as a customer showed me what our policies looked like from the other side. That perspective made me a better leader and created better policy. The bank implements monthly community meetings where customers can share experiences and suggest improvements. Lending practices are reviewed for bias by external auditors. Investment in minority-owned businesses increases significantly, creating economic opportunity in previously underserved communities. Other banks adopt similar accountability measures after seeing First National's success in both moral leadership and improved financial performance. The financial industry begins recognizing that diversity isn't just morally right, it's economically essential for long-term success. Dignity isn't something you earn through wealth or position, Marcia tells her staff, her words carrying the weight of lived experience. It's something every person deserves, simply by being human. When we deny dignity to others, we diminish ourselves and our institutions. Today, this bank serves everyone with equal respect, not because they're perfect, but because they're committed to doing better every day. That's how real change happens. One interaction, one decision, one moment of courage at a time. Marcia stands outside the bank's entrance, the same spot where security questioned her right to enter just 3 weeks ago. The contrast is stark. She's transformed not just a building, but an institution's soul. The brass nameplate gleams in the afternoon sun, but now it represents something different. A place where dignity matters more than assumptions, where character is judged by actions rather than appearance. Every day you have the power to choose dignity over discrimination, inclusion over exclusion, she says, looking directly at anyone who will listen, her voice carrying the authority of someone who has walked through fire and emerged stronger. When you witness bias, you can choose to be a bystander or an advocate. When you lead, you can choose to perpetuate harmful systems or transform them. The choice is simple but not easy. Challenge discriminatory behavior when you see it. Support businesses that demonstrate genuine inclusion. Use your voice and your wallet to demand better. Hold institutions accountable for their stated values rather than accepting empty promises. You don't need to be a CEO to create change. Every person has influence in their circle, their workplace, their community. Use that influence to build the world you want to live in, the world your children deserve to inherit. Justice isn't a destination, it's a daily choice. Choose courage, Choose compassion. Choose to see the humanity in everyone you meet, regardless of what they look like or where you assume they come from. Because the next person you encounter might just be exactly where they belong, even if they don't look like what you expected.